Hi everyone, I'm Kelsey and welcome back to my channel, Connecting with Spirit. So today I'm going to be continuing on talking about another kind of bit of my ascension journey, following on from my first video in this series. It's entitled The Day I Went from 5D to 3D. So if you haven't had a look at that video, please do check it out, because I talk about how I transitioned from 3D to 5D energetically, and embodied the energy that was in my heart, love. And after that, I was in this really interesting in-between worlds sort of energy, where energetically I was 5D but my physical body was 3D, so I had like one foot in both worlds, but I didn't belong to either of them because I wasn't fully the energy of either of them. And then my physical body went through a huge transformation, a transition, in order to bring its vibration up to hold those 5D frequencies. So the light from the sun and from galactic energies and all these other energies would flow down and hit my body. And as your body takes in more light, more lower density energies will be brought up to the surface for processing, for purging, for releasing, for clearing. So your body can take in more light, and also form what's known as the light body. So as this was happening, and the light streams into your body, it causes your DNA to vibrate, and you can take on DNA activations to activate all of the strands in your DNA. There's also energetic upgrades, and different things like that. But as you take in more light, like I said, this can bring a lot of stuff up to the surface. So we're talking about trapped emotions, we're talking about fears, we're talking about limiting beliefs, we're talking about trauma, yours as well as your ancestral trauma, or emotions, fears, any of those emotions that maybe your ancestors haven't processed. They are all stored in your DNA, and as the light comes in, your DNA vibrates and all that stuff comes up to the surface as well. And it's not only your ancestral stuff, it's also parallel lives. So that is also encoded in the DNA. You also have access to the information of your parallel lives, past lives, parallel lives, which is kind of hard to get your head around, but is a conversation for another day. So I'll just say past parallel lives. All of that information is also encoded within your DNA, in what they term as junk DNA. It's actually not junk DNA. It is a lot of information from a lot of other lives or your ancestral lineage. So as the light streams in, that can cause the DNA to vibrate and then also activate, and basically a purge happens. And you can experience what I would call multidimensionality, where it can feel like you are living multiple lives in the one life. So you could be experiencing like old childhood wounds or trauma, and you're reliving some experiences from your childhood, but you're also in the present, living in the present, but you're also experiencing some things from your past and parallel lives that you know you haven't experienced, but it feels like you're experiencing them, as well as ancestral trauma, emotions, or experiences that your ancestors have gone through as well. And it can be really confusing energetically, because you're feeling all these things and it's hard to determine what's yours and what's your ancestors or past parallel lives, and it's all kind of lumped into the one thing. So energy healing really does come in handy here, and just tuning into yourself, coming back into your heart to center yourself. So this was certainly my experience, where I just felt so unbelievably confused. I could differentiate from my own stuff and ancestral stuff from past and parallel lives, because I would always tune in and ask, and there would always be a different feeling to it. So my stuff would be usually really intense, and I know it would be mine, whereas the other stuff would be kind of like, it would almost feel a little bit distant, if that makes sense. It wouldn't be as intense as my own stuff. It'd be like a little bit further away and a little bit more manageable because I knew it wasn't mine. But at the same time, it's a really confusing thing to be going through, having all these different energies coming up and maybe not understanding where they're coming from or why you're feeling this way. It can be really, really intense and confusing, and that's why I wanted to share this sort of experience with you in case anybody else is going through this and you're feeling alone. This certainly was my experience. Didn't know what the feck was happening. All these sort of stuff was coming up, and it's only now that I'm able to kind of process and put everything together and understand more as I go through this journey myself. From my understanding, it was because my body was taking on so much light. And in order to take on more light, the darkness then comes up to the surface to be purged. So your body is constantly taking on more light, and it can be a very intense experience depending on what sort of ascension path you've chosen in this lifetime. It could be an ascension path, which means that you're just constantly taking in the light. Stuff is coming up, you're constantly taking the light. Stuff is coming up, and you're processing, and you're healing, and you're clearing all the time. And it can be quite debilitating and paralyzing also, depending on the intensity of the emotions and whatever it is that you have experienced in this life or your ancestors, as well as those past and parallel lives as well. It can be unbelievably intense. So I just wanted to mention that, and also to say that there is support out there. I do offer one-to-one ascension support sessions for this sort of thing. If you are feeling this multidimensionality and you're finding it difficult to piece together what on earth is happening to you, what your stuff is, what's other people's stuff, all this sort of stuff, we do cover that in session. I do also have an ascension support membership, like a community, which I'm just getting up and started. So you'll have access to resources in there from me, like meditations, understanding physical symptoms or emotional symptoms that might be arising for you, and a few other bits and pieces, as well as access to a monthly healing group with the community, which will be really cool once we get started with that. So yeah, that's really exciting, and I just wanted to mention those two things. If you're interested, do let me know what your experience of the ascension journey is, how you felt as your physical body transitioned into 5D, what happened to you. This is just one aspect of the ascension journey and what can happen, just talking about the multidimensionality and how that can feel. I think in my next video I'll be talking about physical symptoms and letting you know my experience and what physical symptoms that I've experienced as a result of taking in all that light. Please do let me know your experience in the comments below if you've experienced this multidimensionality or anything else to do with your ascension journey. I'd love to hear it. And other than that, thank you so much for being here, for tuning in, and until next time, take care. Bye bye.